So no, equalization did not hold Alberta back. It helped Alberta stand up.
Okay, this guy is back. He's been on quite a roll. Here he tries to argue that Alberta should actually like equalization. Here we go.
The only reason that there's an oil industry in Alberta today is because of federal equalization. Yeah.
Really? I thought it was because of the oil in Alberta, but go on.
That same equalization program. And not because it paid for oil, but because it made failure survivable during early oil exploration in Alberta. So when
this guy does a lot of jump cuts, this is the only time I'm going to bring it up, but yeah.
Oil exploration started in Alberta, it wasn't a sure thing. Okay, it was super risky, it was very expensive, and there were a lot of failures.
I mean, in hindsight, it was a sure thing. Oil is so valuable.
Often, okay, most drilling in the early stages of oil exploration did not pay off. Canada's federal equalization program was created in 1957. Okay, and Alberta received it until 1965. And that matters because during those years, Alberta wasn't rich. Okay, it had a population of under 1.5 million people.
For 8 years.
The oil sands weren't commercially viable yet, and royalty revenues were unstable and unpredictable. So what made investors willing to gamble billions of dollars in oil exploration in Alberta?
The potential of profits. This is how a lot of business works. You don't need an equalization formula for this.
Canada did, right? Federal transfers, national infrastructure, a stable currency, and a
stable currency.
Sovereign credit meant that Alberta didn't collapse every time a well failed or prices dipped. Okay, private companies could drill, they could fail, then they could regroup and drill again because the province wasn't carrying all the downside alone.
That's called business. That's how companies still operate today. That's how they would have operated back in the day. You do analysis, you understand how much risk you can take on because you're going for big wins. That's just called business. That has very little to do with equalization, if even at all. And another thing, because of all these cuts, I feel like he's reading an AI script, but I mean, maybe not. I don't know.
That's what equalization actually did. It absorbed risk while capacity was being built. So by the early 1960s, oil revenues had started to explode. Okay. And in 1962, the natural resource.
I'll take a look at this actually right now. How much did Alberta receive in the history of the equalization program? Adjust to today's dollars. Short answer. Alberta has received essentially nothing from equalization in real terms. Close to zero in today's dollars over the entire history of the program. This is from ChatGPT. Alberta equalization, 1957 to present. Since equalization began in 57, Alberta has received payments only in a few early years. Been a net non-recipient for over 95%. Received no equalization at all since 65. So for 60 years, okay, they got it a little bit in the first 8 years, nominal dollars, 300 million, adjusted to today's dollars, $2.5 to $3.5 billion. Context, how small that really is. Quebec receives about 13 to 15 billion every year. So history of the program, in inflation adjusted dollars, Alberta got 2.5 to 3.5 billion. Quebec receives about 4 times that amount every year. So are you kidding me, dude? Alberta has never qualified again, even during recessions. Not even during 80s oil crash, 08 financial crisis, 2015 oil collapse, COVID downturn. Dude, unbelievable. We'll go back to this here.
Resource revenues were formally included into the equalization formula with the federal government. And by 1965, Alberta no longer needed it. Equalization stepped aside the moment that Alberta no longer needed it. And that's not punishment, okay? That is our federal equalization program working exactly as designed. And from there...
I mean, that's crazy. So Alberta got a little bit of equalization for 8 years, so it needs to just be drained for the next 60? What kind of formula, what kind of arrangement is that?
Alberta kept the upside, right? 100% of Alberta's natural resource royalties stay inside of Alberta. But Canada kept doing something else that mattered just as much. Every single major oil crash, 1986, 1998, 2008, 2014, 2020, Alberta didn't implode. Why would that be? Yeah, because EI surges into the province to the tune of billions of dollars, right? Because federal stabilizing money kicks in. Yeah, these cushions aren't accidents, okay? These are features of
He made a similar point in the first video. Every country would be aware of this, that any industry, especially oil, but a bunch of them are going to be cyclical. So you put away some money for a rainy day. This is not something that only Canada, the country Canada, the federal government is aware or capable of doing.
Features of a risk-sharing federation. So no, equalization did not hold Alberta back. It helped Alberta stand up.
That is crazy, bro.
It helped Alberta be a safe place for these corporations to take these massive financial risks.
Oh, the corporations. What is this, like the most ultimate pro-capitalist, pro-corporatist guy? The poor corporations that are trying to make a bunch of profits in oil exploration. That's totally great, but give me a break, man.
During oil exploration. And it helped build an oil industry that likely would have never survived its early years otherwise.
That is so incorrect, bro.
Equalization obviously didn't create oil, okay? But it did create the conditions where failure was manageable in the early years of oil exploration.
Where is he pulling that from? How can he make that claim? What are you talking about?
And that's the part about equalization that people leave out. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends that Alberta received in inflation-adjusted dollars $2.5 to $3.5 billion in the lifetime of the program that's been around for about 68 years. Tell your friends, everybody. Equalization is very good for Alberta. Okay, I'm going to finish my video here with Danielle Smith talking about equalization payments.
Hello, my name is Brian Tubbs, and I'm from Black Falls. I have a question that I read maybe a year or so ago, that Quebec has billions of dollars under their feet in undeveloped resources. Why are we giving them anything?
Yeah. Premier, do you want to take that one, or do you want me to send it to Andrew?
I know that Michael can answer that one too.
I know he
I
can.
can tell you every single time I meet the Quebec Premier, I remind him that he has, I believe it's about a 200-year supply of natural gas right under their feet. And to get to what I think one of the earlier speakers commented on and what Professor Toom mentioned is maybe that should be factored in, is yeah, you can keep it in the ground, but then we're going to assign a value as if you developed it, and then we will deduct out what you're owed based on the fact that you've chosen not to develop it. Yeah. We could take the same,
Yeah.
Of course.
And
while the East goes to climate change. Oh, but we'll take equalization payment money, no problem.
Frankly, take the same approach with hydroelectric, because hydroelectric, they sell it to their people at a subsidy. We could say, well, you can choose to do that, but we will presume the market rate and what the revenues would be at that market rate. And if you choose to subsidize, that's on you, but you can't get that from the rest of the country. So there's two things that we could put in there for conditions.
You know, I love listening to what you got to say.
Okay, actually one more short clip here from Danielle Smith, only 30 seconds, because I like this one as well.
The same per capita federal transfers and equalization as is received by the other three largest provinces, Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. We have no issue with Alberta continuing to subsidize smaller provinces with their needs. But
look, that's debatable. I mean, you could argue that if Canada was all getting along, sure, if the maritime provinces go through an economic slump, here's a few dollars, but this point that Danielle Smith here makes next, I totally agree with.
But there is no excuse for such large and powerful economies like Ontario, Quebec, BC, or Alberta to be subsidizing one another. That was never the intent of equalization, and it needs to end.
Totally. It's so ridiculous, man. The amount of money that Alberta does not receive in equalization, while other places like, it's Clown Road. Anyway, thank you for watching. Obviously, the major one is Quebec, but thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe. Have a great day.